Air traffic controllers' main job is to prevent planes from hitting each other.
Yes.
That is giving them turns, giving them climbs and descents to miss other planes. They need to be focused on doing that job 100% of the time. They shouldn't be driving for Uber before their shift. They shouldn't be waiting tables. They should be getting rested. The fatigue matters. The stress matters.
Joining our discussion now, Captain Sully Sullenberger, the pilot of U.S. Air Flight 1549 that landed on the Hudson River safely. He's also an aviation safety expert. Captain Sullenberger, I know you are a reluctant public commenter, and it takes a lot to get you moving. You tweeted last week, the day before Donald Trump ended the shutdown. We had those aviation experts on Thursday night, and I have to say, when I left that show, after hearing Trish Gilbert talk about air traffic controllers trying to prevent the planes from hitting each other, and others, I thought, how many more nights of this can President Trump watch? How many more politically can the Republicans endure? And so it is my feeling, just as a matter of political leverage, cause and effect, that it is the aviation industry, really, that put the ultimate external pressure to end that shutdown.
Yes, it's because it's important to all of us. So many of us fly. You know, I've been on the other end of the microphone from air traffic controllers for almost 52 years now. What a professional bunch. You know, pilots and air traffic controllers work closely together in this carefully choreographed aerial ballet that we have to get right 100% of the time. So what they do matters. They are the most dedicated, the most professional group you can imagine, and they have a lot of stress already. So adding the stress and the uncertainty of this shutdown to them is just unconscionable.
I want to talk to you about leadership and what it means to you and what you see, what the lessons America should take about leadership from this kind of shutdown situation. When you're piloting an aircraft, you are responsible for everyone on that aircraft. You have to make calculations of risk. You have to say, this is the risk I'm going to have to accept under these circumstances, or I will not accept any risk. For whatever reason, we're not going to take this plane off the ground. Some information comes your way. There's a massive amount of risk, not just to the flying public, but to the public in general. Certainly horrible personal risk to government employees, government contractors whose income is cut off for more than a month. I didn't feel that calculation of risk being made by the people who brought us this shutdown.
Absolutely not. This shutdown was a reckless political act that put millions of Americans at risk unnecessarily. You have to realize that when we go up in an airliner, what we're doing is pushing a tube filled with hundreds of people through the upper atmosphere. And air traffic controllers have to make sure that they don't hit each other. And they're separating vehicles that carry hundreds of people at several hundred miles per hour by laterally a few miles and vertically 1,000 feet. And there's no room for distraction. So we also feel a terrible obligation, an intense obligation to get this right every single time. That's also a factor of leadership and of empathy, of humanity, knowing what's at stake and caring for the welfare of others. Every captain, air traffic controllers, and two have that responsibility in the forefront of their mind. But when they're distracted during the shutdown and they're worrying about paying their rent and not the 100% focus they have to have every single time, then they begin to make mistakes that they usually don't make. And they wonder, why am I doing that? And it's because of this unnecessary shutdown, this stress test that we're putting our entire system and our institutions through.
How quickly does the aviation system recover from that kind of shutdown?
Not right away. You see, some of these short-term effects also have long-term consequences. Here are just a few examples. The FAA Academy in Oklahoma City is the facility that trains air traffic controllers. During the shutdown, classes were disbanded and will have to be reconstituted. Most air traffic facilities in this country are already understaffed, and so they're not going to get replacement and new controllers as soon as they really need to. Many controllers are already eligible for retirement. I wonder now if, after this disruption and the lack of pay, if they're going to say, maybe I should retire now rather than wait. The maintenance that normally is done by the support staff, if they aren't working, can't be done.
Maintenance of the air traffic control equipment.
Air traffic control equipment during the shutdown was not done. So if air traffic control equipment broke it was going to stay broken until the shutdown ended and they got to it. Just one more example is the FAA maintenance inspectors who look at airline service difficulty reports and find pieces of equipment on airplanes that need to be replaced, and if they need to issue a safety alert about it, that work wasn't being recorded and safety alerts were not being issued. At every level, this multiple layer safety net that we have is not in place. We have to have that in place to avoid catastrophe.
The president is the only player in this story who has already threatened the possibility of another shutdown. No one else involved on any side of it, even Republican members of Congress, are talking that way. But today the president said there's a 50-50 chance that he just might do this again if he's not satisfied with what Congress presents him by February 15th. What would you say another shutdown? What would you say the damage and risk would be in that?
No leader can afford to be blind to risk. Part of being a leader means that you have a full and accurate appreciation of the risk, and you can judge them, what's reasonable and what's not. It would simply be not only a failure of government, but a failure of leadership to do that again.
Captain Sullenberger, real pleasure to have you here. Really an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you,
again.
Lawrence.
Really appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.